Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jennifer Urezzio, and I'm the founder of Soul Language. And this is Stories with the Divine. And today I'm talking with Monique Hunt. And the reason why I created this show is because there are several times in my life that I knew that God, that's what I call my higher power, knew who I was. And I think it's really important that we share those stories so you can have those awarenesses and so that you can hear the big ones and the little ones of when the divine knows who you are. So, welcome, Dr. Monique Hunt.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so excited because I know a lot about you, and I loved you're such a great storyteller, and I love when you share yourself with me, and I'm always amazed of your stories, and I'm excited to hear a new one. So, how did you know that the divine knew who you were?
There are several stories that go along the way, but I'm going to really start with the one that I haven't, like I said, shared with very many people. And it was really, I would say, like a real pivotal moment for me. And it happened when I was on vacation with my grandmother, my aunt, my mother, and my other aunt. So my two aunts, my grandmother, and my mom. We were all on a vacation. And the purpose of this vacation for my mom and my aunt was to do more research for the book, our family history book that's back there. They were doing the family history research and they were visiting different parts of Virginia looking for records. And so they had been doing this for about 10 years. And they said that they had identified the plantation that my grandmother's great grandmother lived on.
Wow.
And so we decided that we wanted to go to this plantation and actually look at some of the grave sites and just experience being in the energy of that particular plantation. And we loaded up the van. We flew into Virginia from different parts of California, and we all met up. We get there, we get our van, we are checked into our hotel. We're laughing, having fun, haven't seen each other in a while. And it's just a really great, coming together of the women in my family. And we get in the vehicle to go to this plantation, and we're laughing and joking, and we're driving along. And then we get to the point where it's time to make a turn onto the road that leads up to the plantation. And suddenly I start feeling silence in the vehicle.
Mm.
You can feel just like this heaviness that's coming over us, realizing that we're driving down the road that our ancestors may have walked on or been a part of at some point. And we're coming down and we get to the point where we reach the house. And of course, the family that owns the house now is not the same family that owned it during the time that it was a working plantation that had a number of slaves. But we get there and we see this man standing outside, and he starts talking to us and giving us some information and offered to give us a tour of the plantation. And my grandmother's great grandmother actually was a cook. And so he took us into the quarters that they still had of where my grandmother's great grandmother was, who was cooking. And you could just feel this energy there. There was a part of it was a peacefulness, and part of it was a little bit of sorrow that we were experiencing. And then we asked if we could go to where the grave sites were. And he pointed to where they were, and they were up this really tall hill. And we had to walk up this hill. And my grandmother, who at the time had some heart challenges, she was determined to walk up that hill to go to the gravesite so that we could just take a look and see if we were able to gather any additional information about our family and our family history. And we finally get to the top of the mountain, still very quiet, very solemn, not saying very much, but just taking in this moment, realizing that as we walk up this tall hill, that maybe some of our ancestors had been on that land and had walked up that hill, and just kind of feeling beneath my feet this energy and this connection that was taking place. So we get to the top, and the top of it is a little bit flat, and we're walking around. We're looking at the different grave sites, and we're quiet, not saying very much. And most of them are like markers and that kind of thing, not a whole lot around names. And we get, and we're walking, and we're all there, and we're all quiet. And I stayed behind the rest of the group, just kind of taking in and just looking around and taking some deep breaths and feeling the energy of this space. When suddenly I take the next step and I go right down into a hole, and I drop down into the hole. Now, dropping down into the hole could be a very scary experience.
And dangerous.
And dangerous, exactly, because I don't know what's in the hole. It could be snakes, it could be a fox, as we talked about earlier. It could be a little bit of anything, could be down in this hole.
Or you could have fallen and hurt yourself.
And hurt myself,
Yeah.
absolutely. But suddenly, instead of fear, which normally would be there, I felt peaceful. And I felt this real connection. And I didn't feel this like urgent need to get out of this hole. I didn't struggle to get out. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't injured. And I just stood there for a moment, and I felt this connection. And I felt this energy just kind of flowing. And I felt that there was a message that was there.
Wow.
And that I needed to be in that moment to just kind of get that message. And as I look back on it, I remember hearing one of the ancestors say, "Be still, my child, be still."
Wow.
Be still. And that was sort of the beginning of me feeling this real deep connection to the ancestors, and knowing that these messages were there for me.
Wow.
And this connection was there for me. And what's interesting about that is I wasn't doing ancestral work at the time. I wasn't doing anything in this field at the time. I was actually working as an engineer during that time, and was miserable and wanted to leave the corporate world, and wasn't sure what I wanted to do and what my next steps would be.
Wow.
And I felt like being in the presence of the ancestors, being on that land, they were sending me a message that ultimately led me to where I am today, ultimately gave me the courage to work with them and to channel their messages and to share what guidance they had. And that was really the beginning, being down in that hole, being on that land, being connected to them. And then we went on to, really walk around and spend some time there. And with each marker, I would say some words of gratitude and appreciation for all that they sacrificed, all that they experienced, all, just all of it. And I even would, I had, conversations about, with them about their, some of the horrible experiences that they had while they were enslaved, and how I would live my life honoring them and cherishing them. And it was just this really beautiful sort of exchange that was happening. And the exchange was more, me feeling their energy and me sharing words of gratitude and really appreciating them.
Love
And
that.
then we decided that it was time to, eventually leave. And I remember coming back towards the downhill part of this area. We go back down to the car, and I turned around and I just looked out, and I had this real sense of pride, knowing that these were strong, courageous people who had worked this land I mean, forcibly,
Yeah.
obviously,
Right.
that worked this land and had created something that was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, this is powerful. So as we began to leave and just kind of feeling the earth, as we're walking back down the hill and we go to the car and we get to the car, we get in, and there's just complete silence. Silence all the way back to the condo that we were staying in. We get to the condo and everybody is still silent. And I'm still taking this in. And I remember going and sitting and just writing down and journaling what I felt, what I heard, what messages I felt came through, what the purpose of this experience, how I felt when I was in this hole, and writing all of that down. And then I decided that in order for us to really kind of integrate what our experience was and to really take this in a very positive way, that I would fix a really beautiful dinner with candlelight and peacefulness, and everybody could come to the table and just express what they felt and what they experienced. And each of us had different experiences, but I think for all of us, there was this awakening where we felt like there was just this divine energy that was there, that was holding us there and had messages for us.
Yeah. You
And so
know,
for years.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but part of me wants to go, wow, what, or part of me wants to like hope or trust that your ancestors had that same feeling, that they had that same holding, that they had that same
Yeah.
welcoming from the land and from divinity, so they felt in terrible struggle and terrible pain and things that should never be done to another human being, um, comforted in some way or supported or inspired or held, felt held, right?
Right.
You know, that moment when you being in a hole going, paraphrasing, it's okay, be still, it's all right. You know, it's a beautiful feeling and a beautiful imagery. And we can only hope that your ancestors had a little of that as well.
Right. And I think they do. I think they do. I think they were definitely resting in peace. I believe and I felt that my grandmother, especially coming back to the land, that her great grandmother was on,
Yeah.
her grandmother, um, and coming back and just being there was a sense of peace that they experienced, because my grandmother was a very successful woman. I mean, she raised 5 truly incredible children who adore each other and still spend time together and love each other. And she traveled the world. She owned homes. She volunteered. She contributed to the community. Um, and she left a legacy, a
Right.
powerful legacy, and a scholarship that is still, being um, given out to people. And she did so many amazing things. And for her to come back sort of at the end of her life and have this experience, I think created a sense of peace
Yeah.
for those ancestors.
Yeah. And not only that, but, here's a very story and example where being that connected, not just with you, but through generations, actually heals.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful segue into what your sacred work in the world is. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you bring to others and what you
Yeah.
offer?
Yes. So I do ancestral story clearing. And what I do is I help people really claim those ancestral blessings that we have. Like I was able to claim those blessings from those ancestors that are on their land, claim that strength and that resilience and that power and the creativity that they have, and embody that. And also understanding that there are generational wounds that took place.
Right.
And particularly when you're looking at people who were enslaved, I mean, we all have generational wounds, but really understanding those as a part of being on that land, I could feel those wounds. I could feel where there was trauma and all of those things that were happening, along with being able to feel the blessings of what these ancestors had to offer me. And when I do my work, I help people claim those blessings, understand those generational wounds and the cultural traumas that may have occurred, and learn how to release those from your DNA so that you don't continue to carry those wounds on from generation to generation to generation. And I call it ancestral story clearing because we are looking at the stories of the ancestors. I'm able to channel those stories for my clients. We look at the stories of the ancestors and we take those stories and we heal those stories, because most often the stories that you're experiencing, that you're living right now, are closely connected to stories that your ancestors experienced. Whether they're positive stories or challenging stories, you have ancestors that experience those challenging stories that can now give you guidance and support for overcoming those challenges. You have ancestors that were successful business owners and are able to now help you and guide you and open doors that seem closed and create flows of opportunity and abundance where maybe you're feeling like there's some blocks. And I help you work with these ancestors to really embody all that they have to offer so that you can really fulfill your purpose in a much bigger way.
Yeah, and you're brilliant at it. So let's give out your website so people can get more of your goodness.
My website is drmonique.com. So pretty easy, drmonique.com.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story today. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for the impact that you've had on my life. So I'm just so glad that you're here and willing to share what you do best. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I was really excited when you said you were doing this show because I think it's so important. And I'm so grateful that you invited me. And you too have had a major impact on my life. And I'm so grateful for your friendship and just your wisdom and your knowledge and all that you offer to me and everyone in your community. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, welcome, welcome. Yay. All right, everyone. If you're interested in having a deeper connection with yourself and your soul, you can log on to soullanguage.us/ and gift of purpose. It's a free gift for you, and that will help you with your connection. This is Jennifer Urezzio, and you've been watching Stories with the Divine. So bye for now, everyone.